Hi Instagrammers, hi YouTubers, hi Facebookers, how are you? Right, he's either got no idea, right, so you've got from this title, this is about the Prime Minister's comments in the House of Commons at Prime Minister's Questions on the 7th of February 2024. And I'm not going to go into the details. I am aware that you know what I'm talking about, the transphobic comments that Rishi Sunak made. Now, as we all know, a trans girl that was murdered's mother was in the House of Commons at the time when he made this transphobic comment directed towards the leader of the opposition, Sir Keir Starmer, Prime Minister's Questions. Now, Rishi Sunak is either totally unaware of where he is and hasn't got a clue about what he's talking about until he opens up his briefing notes and reads them. He either didn't pay attention to what Keir Starmer was talking about at the opening of Prime Minister's Questions when he addressed the fact that the trans girl who was murdered, Brianna, mother, was in the House of Commons at the time. So he's either not aware of his surroundings or he is totally incompetent. He's got no integrity. If he had integrity, he wouldn't have made those comments. Or he did it on purpose. Now, it's getting to the stage where I'm beginning to think he did it on purpose. That's what it seems like, because I'm... Right, we all know what the Tories are like. They're incompetent. They can't run a country anymore. They're out of ideas. They haven't got a clue what they're doing. But I am still trying to find it hard that Rishi Sunak didn't realise what he was saying in the context he was saying it towards the people that were in the chamber or in the building watching it on a remote telly in the building at the same time. Where is his head? Now, the media, it's difficult to gauge the media, if on any other day of Prime Minister's Questions, any other day in Parliament, transphobic comments are bandied about quite regularly in the Commons, directed at Labour to score points off them or the Liberal Democrats, or the SNP, who tried to push through the legislation in the Scottish Parliament to make self-ID possible for trans folk and non-binary folk. So they do it to have a pop at the opposition parties in the Commons. Any other day of the week, this would have gone unnoticed. It wouldn't have been, there would have been no hoo-ha in the media, no nothing. Because of the context in which it was said, and because of who was in the building at the time, the media felt like it had to comment. They shamed Richie. They tried to get an apology out of him, which he's not going to give. But they are as much to blame for this level of discussion in the UK as any politician, because it started with them. It started with the press. About 5 or 6 years ago, most pieces in the press about trans people, going back to the 70s or 80s, were either outing pieces or look at this weird thing, this person changed their sex, and look at them now, and look at their gender, and look at them now. And look at... Up until about 2015, the media was fairly positive towards the trans community. We were beginning to be more visual in media and stuff. It's when you started to see Paris Lee, and you started to see Sean Fay, and you started to see Laverne Cox, and you started to see, sadly, Caitlyn Jenner. And you started to see these trans women. I'm blanking on trans guys at the moment because I can't think of any prominent trans... Well, no, because even Elliot Page, he transitioned after all the hate started. So even he wasn't out at the time. So there wasn't really that many trans men who were visible, who were out and visible in the media, but there are a lot of trans women. And in 2014, I did a piece on my Fresh Brew podcast show that we used to run, me and my two brothers. And I made the comment that it seemed to me that trans folk and non-binary folk were becoming more visible. We were getting more of a fair representation in the media. And I just felt at the time, and I made the comment on the show, that I feared there was going to be a backlash because everything was too good. It was too positive. There had to be a visceral reaction to our very existence of poking our head up above the parapet. And the following year it started. The gender critical movement started to grow, as in they became the TERFs and then into gender critical movement. The media started to react. The Telegraph, the Daily Mail, the Sun, the Times, even the Guardian started to write hit pieces on us. It was almost like we'd come out the box and they were trying to stuff us back in the box as best they could. And that's what it's been like now for the last 5, 6, 7 years. Longer than that, really. They did this. This wasn't an issue before. Theresa May, when she was Prime Minister, was pushing her party, the Tory party, the Conservative Party, to free up the Gender Transition Act, the GRC and the GRA, and to make it easier to transition and change your name and your gender and stuff like that, self-ID. She stood up at the Pink News Awards and said, my party is done. We are going to fight against transphobia and homophobia. Look at them now. It couldn't be more stark. The party whose Prime Minister, not the party, the Prime Minister, led the charge for same-sex marriage in this country in 2014, 2015, I think it was. What are they now? Theresa May used to call them the nasty party. They are indeed that. They are sick. They are horrible. They spout nothing but vile abuse at the most maligned minority groups in this country. From Muslim people to migrants to the trans community, they just it's just so frustrating living here. Every day you turn on the media, every day you watch something on YouTube, something else has happened. Do you know, on average there are 154 hit pieces, mainly in the newspapers, but also on print media, but also on visual audio media. 154 pieces every month that are hit pieces and negative pieces aimed at the trans and non-binary community. 154 every month. How are you supposed to keep up with that? There are not enough days in the month to address all the pieces that come out about us, written by cis people who've got no idea what our experience is and what we have to go through. None. And so I'm really, really angry. Some of my friends that I know are planning to move away. Some of my friends don't know what to do. Keir Starmer stood up after the Prime Minister had made his comments, these vile comments, and he looked visibly angry. But he's just to blame for this. Labour has rolled back on its policies of trans inclusivity and trans rights. They pussyfoot around the subject. Keir Starmer tries to say something positive and in the same breath he says something negative. The argument is always, there are legitimate questions. No, there aren't. There are no legitimate questions. Stop with your bullshit. It's just an excuse to put your thumb on me and try and put me back in the closet. It's so frustrating. And all we can do is things like this. All we can do as trans folk and non-binary folk is to do a video and try and dispel the myths, say how we feel, give our side of the opinion. But not enough people see these videos. YouTube doesn't promote them in the algorithm. They just don't promote queer content at all, really. I very rarely see trans and queer content in my feed. Sometimes I do, but it's normally 1 or 2 videos, and it's so frustrating. He didn't have to say what he said. He could have left it for another day if he was that bothered about it. But he had to say it on that particular day. With all the fallout that has happened in the last few days and weeks. It was not necessary, and it was just abusive. It was vile, and it was in your face, and it was like being punched in the face after you'd already been kicked to the floor. And we had that from the leader, the political leader of our country. That's what we have. Please like, share and subscribe. I'll see you again soon.